At age 23, Alexander of Macedon was already a royal conqueror, but he wanted to rule the world like a god. He had inherited a frontier kingdom that held the sophisticated Greek city-states in a forced alliance, transforming their combined resources into a mobile juggernaut of destruction. His war with the Achaemenid Persian Empire pointed him south to Egypt, where ancient tradition offered the status of a royal god. But to earn that promotion, he first had to transform the surface of the earth. Alexander the Great presented himself as the Avenger of Greece, punishing Persia for indignities suffered a century and a half before his time. By January of 332 BC, he had already broken the Persian field army at Issus, but Persian King Darius III still controlled hundreds of ships. The island fortress of Tyre was a key port for that fleet. Alexander's strategy was to neutralize the Persian navy from the shore, crushing their Mediterranean ports as he moved south. Leaving any one of them functional risked his supply lines and his homeland. Nearly half a mile off the coast of what's now Lebanon, Tyre's walls extruded skyward from the sea, encasing the city in limestone well over 100 feet tall. Alexander requested entry to Tyre's temple of Melkart because of its connection to the Greek deity he claimed as an ancestor, Heracles. In reality, he was demanding acknowledgement of his right to control the city and sever its allegiance to Persia. With the Tyrian king Azemilchus initially absent, the city magistrates refused, betting on the depth of the channel. Some documentation indicates that the Tyrians executed Alexander's envoys, throwing them from the city's high battlements into the sea. Alexander ordered that the mainland Phoenician city of Ushu, later called Old Tyre, be dismantled. Those chunks of city were now to be the building blocks of the mole, an engineered rock causeway to fill the sea between his army and the island. The first 200 yards favored the engineers. They drove sharpened cedar trunks into the muck to retain the rubble. But as the shelf dropped away, the underwater terrain descended into a deep trench, the Mediterranean current compressed by the growing land bridge pulling loose stones into the deep. For stability in the deepening sea, the Macedonians sank entire trees as foundation, trapping the stones in a submerged lattice. The Tyrians harassed the engineers with galley-based archers and catapults. Alexander deployed torsion catapults from the mole to launch heavy bolts and stones. Construction stalled as casualties mounted on both sides. Alexander's solution was to escalate the siege vertically. In March, Alexander ordered the construction of 2 timber frame monoliths to match the height of the Tyrian battlements. To neutralize the city's fire arrows, the Macedonians armored the towers with raw, water-saturated ox hides. Inside, 10 levels of catapults and archers created a ballistic umbrella, pushing the Macedonian perimeter inch by inch toward the city. Tyrian king Azemilchus returned from his command within the Persian navy to deal with the escalating situation at home. His forces waited a transport galley to lift its bow and packed the hull with bitumen, sulfur, and oil. The fireship hit its target, funneling fire through the timber skeletons. The towers buckled into the sea. While the Macedonians were still assessing the damage, the weather turned. A violent Mediterranean gale surged, unrooting underwater scaffolding and tearing away months of progress on the mole. Alexander adapted. Leaving most of his men to rebuild the mole and the towers, he rode north to Sidon and Byblos to call in the debts of his new empire. Within weeks, the strategic landscape shifted. Persian allied naval crews along the Phoenician coast defected, and Alexander returned to the island citadel with an armada of over 200 galleys. The naval support that Carthage had promised Azemilchus never arrived. As the Macedonian blockade tightened, the Tyrian fleet attempted a desperate midday sortie from the northern harbor. Alexander personally led the countercharge, shattering the Tyrian ships in a frantic naval engagement that permanently broke the city's ability to contest the sea. 7 months into the siege, new towers met the battlements, and the mole reached all the way across. the Macedonians lashed galleys together in pairs to mount mobile towers and battering rams directly onto the decks. On the final day, Alexander used the rebuilt towers on the mole as a diversion, while the true breach force targeted the southern sea walls. A section of the wall punched inward. Alexander led the high paspists, his elite infantry, across the swaying gangplanks into the breach. To repel them, the Tyrians poured glowing hot sand from copper shields. The particulate slid through armor gaps, searing skin. It was not enough. Inside the city, the Macedonians churned forward with coppice blades in a frantic, high-density scramble. Tyre's narrow alleys and steep stairs became a close-quarters maze of lopsided subtraction. Up to 8,000 Tyrians fell in the streets. Thousands more were crucified along the shoreline as a warning to any who would defy the Avenger of Greece. The surviving population that hadn't fled, numbering in the tens of thousands, were sold into the slave markets of the Levant. King Azemilchus and the Tyrian magistrates huddled for sanctuary in the temple of Melkart. When Alexander arrived amid the violence, he pardoned them as their now undisputed ruler, finally performing the ritual he had requested 7 months earlier. Without Tyre, Persian naval power in the region collapsed, but the job wasn't done. The Macedonians pushed further south to take the remaining Persian allied ports. A catapult projectile lodged in Alexander's torso during a 2-month siege at Gaza, and another struck his leg. He survived. By October, the campaign against Persian ports took Alexander to Egypt, where the Persian overlords were unpopular. Persia's provincial governor of Egypt, Mosaic, capitulated at the frontier, surrendering the vital gateway fortress of Pelusium and all of Egypt without a battle. Further inland, at Memphis, the Egyptian temple elite welcomed Alexander, recognizing him as Pharaoh, bequeathing upon him a claim of human divinity. Pharaoh Alexander outlined the perimeter of a new Egyptian capital that would bear his name, Alexandria, replacing Tyre as the primary commercial hub of the eastern Mediterranean. Then, to confirm his status as a living god, he trekked 300 miles across the dunes of the Libyan desert on foot to the remote temple at the Siwa oasis. There, the Oracle of Ammon spoke to Alexander in a way that the Macedonian pharaoh took as confirmation that he was the son of Zeus Ammon.
Opai Deus.
Fueled by this divine recognition, Alexander turned east, leaving the Mediterranean behind for good, in favor of conquering swaths of Asia. He chased Darius III into his home turf, destroying what had remained of organized Persian resistance on the plains of Gaugamela in modern Iraq. Over the following centuries, the silt of the Mediterranean accumulated against Alexander's ferocious engineering at Tyre, forcing the planet to form a peninsula.